glad to be here with all of you today. And the title of my talk is Spiritually Speaking. So I'm going to start with a couple of spiritual stories. If you put a buzzard in a pen 8 feet square and entirely open at the top, the bird, despite his ability to fly, will be an absolute prisoner. The reason? A buzzard always begins flight from the ground with a run of 10 to 12 feet. Without the space to run, he will not even attempt to fly, but will remain a prisoner for life in a small jail with no top. The ordinary bat that flies around at night is a remarkably nimble creature when he's in the air, but he cannot take off from a level place. If it is placed on the floor or on the ground, all it can do is shuffle around helpless, and then it will not be able to take off until it reaches some slight elevation from which it can throw itself into the air. A bumblebee, dropped into an open tumbler, it will be there until it dies, unless someone removes it. It never sees the means of escape at the top, but persists in trying to find some way out through the sides or the bottom. It will always seek a way where none exists until it completely destroys itself. Have you ever felt like a buzzard, a bat, or a bee? Guilty. They are struggling about with all their problems, all their frustrations, not realizing that the answer that they're seeking is right above. The late Dr. Wayne Dyer. How many are familiar with Dr. Dyer? Yeah, wasn't he something? Oh, really some miraculous things he brought to us. And in 1975, he wrote a book called There is a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem. 40 years ago, he wrote this book. Now, a few months after he completed the book, he had a heart attack. It shocked him because, as he said at the time, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm not overweight, I exercise every single day, I watch what I eat, I meditate, I have a wonderful family life, and a heart attack just doesn't fit into that equation. However, from this experience, he said he had the opportunity to put into practice that which he believed and what he had been writing about for many years. After the heart attack, he was in a state of shock. He felt sorry for himself and was in complete denial that anything like that could ever happen to him. But after a few days, he began to shift his awareness to what was going on. And he started to move from being a victim to being an observer. At that very moment, he said it was as if a light came on in a dark room. All at once, he could feel the presence of the healing energy of the living spirit running through him. And he began to see things from a higher place. He began to view the hospital and all the healing professionals there with love and awe and respect. And at that moment, he started to think and live from a knowing that the presence of God was right where he was at every single moment. Now, I'm certain that each one of us in this room has pondered many questions. Perhaps, like me, you have pondered the magnificence of the universe. Perhaps you've wondered who or what causes the flower seed to blossom, who or what makes our fingernails grow, and who or what beats our heart even as we sleep. What is this force in the universe that keeps the planets in place and hurls our world through the galaxy at breakneck speed? These questions, you see, have been asked for as long as humans have had the ability to contemplate their existence. Spirit, infinite intelligence, energy, these are just some of the names that we use around here to refer to God. But there's no doubt in my mind that this invisible source can solve every problem that we encounter. Now the solution, here's the trick. The solution may not always look like we think it should. But the truth is, we don't always have access to the bigger picture of life. But be assured that a spiritual solution always exists. So in his book, Dr. Dyer outlines 3 steps to accessing a way that we can begin to find our spiritual direction. Now, they're going to sound a little bit familiar, but just bear with me. He calls them recognition, realization, and reverence, especially you practitioners. Recognition, he says, in order to find a solution, we must recognize that there is an invisible force that we can put to use for solving our problems. So recognizing that there is an invisible force. So using an affirmation, that's always a good idea. We teach that in our foundational classes all the time. Affirmations can assist us in recognizing God's energy. So we might say something like, I may not know exactly how to access the spiritual solution here, but I fully recognize that there is a spiritual solution. You know, as we make that statement, what we have done is we have invited the power and the presence of the universe to recognize us. So this omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent spiritual being is indeed the very power behind the task that lies before us. It guides us, and if we allow it, it will light our way. See, once we recognize this, then we can bring the all-knowing power to co-creation with us. This is our basic science of mind. It's what we learn in our foundational classes. Now, next is realization. In realization, what we must do is let go. Let go of the intellectual reasoning that we all love to do and turn within. See, when we enter into a state of meditation, we become aware of that magnetic-like force which pulls us in the direction of God. Then we are open and we are ready for our minds to be renewed and fulfilled with spiritual answers. Next, we're ready for number 3, reverence. When we are able to live in reverence, it is because we know our own divinity, and we commune with that part of ourselves that is divine. In other words, we see ourselves as an extension of or a part of God. As we quietly commune with God, we find avenues of guidance that are not available to us when we are using our ego mind. It's easy to recognize when we're using our ego mind. I bet every one of us knows how to recognize it, because what we're doing is we're pushing and we're pulling and we're trying to move a mountain to make this solution come out the way we think it needs to come out. You see, when we tell God how, then we are fighting against the natural spiritual laws of our being. You know, most people really do want to serve God, but most of the time in an advisory capacity only. Yeah, I thought you'd like that. Sri Ramakrishna used the following parable to teach his devotees how to reach the state of direct union with God. A disciple came to the teacher to learn how to meditate on God. Soon the student returned to the teacher saying that every time he tried to meditate, he found himself thinking about his pet buffalo. Well, the teacher said, meditate on your buffalo. The disciple shut himself in a room and began to concentrate on the buffalo. Well, after some time, the teacher knocked on the door, and the disciple answered, "Sir, I'm sorry, but I can't come to greet you. The door is too small. My horns will be in the way." And the teacher said with a smile, "Splendid. You have become one with the object of your concentration. That's the key. You have become one with the object of your concentration. Now, fix that concentration upon God, and you will easily succeed. The message is clear here, isn't it? Become one with God, and the spiritual solutions will show up. It's written in the Bhagavad Gita. We are born into a world of nature. Our second birth is into a world of spirit. See, often the world of spirit is thought of as being separate from the physical world. It's important, it's very important that we see ourselves as spiritual beings with a physical body, rather than being two separate dimensions of one reality. St. Teresa of Avila said this, "Spirit is the life of God within us." Spirit is the life of God within us. And the Maharishi said, whatever draws the mind inward is spiritual. So whatever draws your mind inward is spiritual. The key to understanding this is to remember that there is only one energy, one life force. Yet, we are two aspects of that existence. We are human and we are spiritual. Spirituality comes from within. And when we have a spiritual practice, this is the best way to make our life work at that higher level. And the reason is because our spiritual practice is what enables us to receive guidance for handling any situation in our life. Now, when Dr. Dyer shifted his emphasis to the spiritual energy of who he was able to incorporate the following into his healing process. And there's 7 of them. We'll go through them one at a time. Number 1, he called surrender. He said, life is not a do-it-yourself project. Surrender is something like this. I do not know how to resolve the situation, but I'm going to turn it over to the same force that I turn my physical body over to every night when I go to sleep. Pretty simple. Anytime we are able to let go and let God, immediately everything will start to look brighter. Number 2, love. We talk about that all the time here, don't we? Love is the greatest healing agent in the world. When we decide that love is to be part of our life, we must let go of anything that is unlike it. So our motto could be, I invite the highest good for all to be concerned in this situation right now. Number 3, we must remind ourselves that we are an infinite soul in a temporary body. Carl Jung reminds us that the telling question of a person's life is their relationship to God. We must unplug ourselves every day from the material aspects of our life, at least long enough to replug ourselves into the spiritual, and then to remember that life can change. But because we are infinite, we can never be destroyed. Number 4, we must quiet our mind, and we must empty it of all negativity. You see, when we're willing to go within, when we're willing to take that quiet time for our mind and our body, and we let go of our ideas of exactly how something absolutely must be resolved, when we're willing to do that, that is the moment we will start being guided to the spiritual solution. We must invite God's plan in, and this is done absolutely just beautifully during our time of prayer and meditation. Number 5, we must practice generosity and gratitude. Dr. Dyer said that when he made a commitment to be grateful for all things and all people who were assisting him, the healing energy and the healing of his body began at a very rapid speed. Now, I know gratitude. How many of you have ever done a gratitude journal? Oh, good for you. what I want you to know is, I know it was really popular a few years ago with Oprah and all that stuff. A gratitude journal is not a fad. It is an actual spiritual practice. Continue it. Write down the things you're grateful for. It's amazing the good it can bring to your life. Number 6, stay connected to God in our mind and our heart. Dr. Dyer wrote this: know that there are people to whom we are connected who are available to help us find the right job, to solve puzzling issues, to help us with our healing, and even to resolve financial situations. When everybody becomes a compatriot rather than a competitor, then we have gained great spiritual awareness. Number 7, the affirmation here could be something like, I bring joy to those around me as a means of eradicating my own self-indulgence. What an idea, huh? Bring joy to other people. When we give of ourself, we are then in a state of grace. And when we are in a state of grace, we will know deeply that we are connected to God. What could be more fulfilling than bringing joy to others' lives? What it does for us is it lifts us higher and higher and higher. We are the only ones who can evict ourselves from the Garden of Paradise. So if God is everything, and God made everything, then everything is good. Can I get an amen? Thank you. You know, the power that we call God, which grows the flowers and moves the planet in perfect orbit, also counts us as one of its creations. We are spiritual beings, and as we move through this experience called life, let us remember to look up to our higher self-awareness, for that is where spiritual solutions reside. There is always a spiritual solution available to us, no matter what things look like. For we know that God never deserts us. And so we look to that infinite intelligence. We look there for everything we need in life. Now, one of the ways that we do that in our science of mind is through our prayer and meditation. So what I'd like you to do today is, if there's something you would like addressed by our ministry of prayer, something you would like to heal, somebody you would like to send a blessing to, something you would like to be grateful for, I would like you at this time to fill out one of our Ministry of Prayer envelopes. And they look like this. They have the symbol, the black symbol. Now they're in the pockets in the chairs in front of you. If you feel so moved to do that, please do, and we will collect them in the, We'll collect them in the offering plates. And if you don't see one and you'd like one, just raise your hand, and one will come right directly to you. Right there in the back, yes. So if you'd like to do that, Sam is going to play a little tune for us so that you can take a few minutes to consider what you might want to put in your prayer request. Now, our practitioners and ministers will hold you in prayer all week. So know that you're in good hands, and the minute you put that prayer request in, God, the Spirit of life, already knows it is time to start action. Anyone else? Over here. Larry. So as you finish writing out your prayer request, just know that each one of us here is blessed by each other. So let us take this message into prayer. Turning within, I know that there is only one life. There is only one source of all life. So as we anchor ourselves in unconditional love, and we turn within and be still and know, then that power and that presence of life recognizes exactly who we are and what all of our prayerful desires are. So I know that that connection is secure, it is perfect, and it is complete. I know that during this time of prayer, we know that that one power and that one presence brings forth all of the spiritual solutions that are needed, that everything is already known in the mind and the heart of God. For God is that invisible principle, that invisible power that is with us each and every moment of life. And so I simply know that whether we are looking toward a healing of our health, our abundance, our relationships, divine action is already in motion. For the divine plan is always perfect and moves us into those endless possibilities for the spiritual solution that we are desiring. God is so good, and all is in divine order. So I simply know this by giving thanks and releasing this to the divine law of mind, knowing that it is good and it is very good. And so we let it be, and so it is.